On today's episode of 6 Minutes, we focus on China's relations with other countries and their military.
Hi, my name is Kieran Megla, and I'm here to talk about the Chinese military. China has a larger population and more people fit for service. The U.S. Army is ranked first, and China is ranked third. China's land systems are numerous, but so are the U.S.'s. The two countries have very close to the same number of tanks, armored vehicles, and artillery pieces. But China has more rocket projectors and portable weapons, and a larger navy than the U.S. On the other hand, the U.S. has a larger air force, with more aircraft carriers and helicopters than China. China began to develop nuclear weapons in 1955 after the Korean War. In response to the U.S. threat, they successfully tested their first nuclear weapon on October 16, 1964. It is estimated that China has a smaller nuclear weapons arsenal with less than 200 weapons. The Strategic Missile Force, SMF, is a missile branch of the People's Liberation Army, PLA, with approximately 90 to 100,000 people. The SMF has 6 operational missile bases. What the U.S. knows, it is now believed that China is equipped with 110 to 140 nuclear weapon-armed strategic missiles. Deployment of new generation began in 2007, and development of the improved missile is almost complete.
In an interview with students from the U of M, we learned that everyone must register for the Army. However, actually getting in is very competitive. One of the students, Yao Meng, explained he was not accepted because he had poor eyesight. The students also told us about the 15-day training they went through once a year in high school, where they learned how to shoot guns and march in formation.
The average monthly income of China Armed Force officers is about $826 a year, and as of 2012, the monthly average income of a Chinese worker was $758. To attract more citizens to the Army, the PLA instituted a program of dual-use training where soldiers learn skills useful in civilian life in addition to military training. Students must complete a 1-month training course at the university before classes start. It contains some of the basic training, but much easier than real training. Officially, it's to teach the students self-discipline, which makes them more patriotic. Many schools require students to wake up at 6 a.m., undergo several training sessions throughout the day, and go to bed at 8 p.m. Most training regimens include marching, standing in formation, and shooting lessons with running and fitness building. Before the military modernization program began in the 1980s, PLA training was highly politicized. Due to the training reforms, troops spent 80% of their time on military activities and 20% on political training. The training also changed to concentrate on training officers capable of combined arms warfare and large-scale exercises which served to raise officer capabilities. These exercises stress defense against attacking tanks, paratroopers, and aircraft, and on occasion involve the simulated use of nuclear weapons. The Combined Arms Tactical Training Center was created for training newly formed group armies, formal field armies, on a rotational basis. The training center coordinated group army exercises and used laser devices and simulation equipment in its training. The PLA also established a new training program for new recruits to replace the old system, in which inductees received basic training in their units. Under the new system, new recruits complete 4 months of training by a training regiment attached to a group army. The military service law also created the compulsory terms of service, 3 years for the ground forces and 4 for the Air Force and Navy. After this, a soldier can switch to voluntary service and can serve an 8 to 12-year term until the age of 35.
The relationship between China and the U.S. has been strained due to the disagreement of the value of the Chinese currency.
One dominant issue at the U.S.-China summit, the Chinese policy of holding down the value of their currency, which continues to give Chinese products and companies a supposedly unfair competitive edge. U.S. officials have long pressed their Chinese counterparts to let the currency, the renminbi, rise in value, sometimes making the case more forcefully than at others.
This has been giving the Chinese an advantage on trade. Currently, of the U.S.'s $16 trillion debt, about 7.5%, or $1.16 trillion, is owned by China. China is buying U.S. debt to keep its own currency low against the U.S. dollar so that people will continue to buy their products in order for their economy to grow. U.S. bonds are believed to be a very safe investment because it's the world's largest economy and has a high bond rating. However, with this large amount of money that the U.S. owes China, tension is growing. As China's military continues to modernize, the U.S. has beefed up its naval assets in the Western Pacific for precaution. As of right now, the United States is doing their best to maintain China's mutual friendship and respect, while militarily remaining neutral.
And that is going to make for more difficult relations between us and them. But are we on a collision course to war with China? We don't have to be. We don't have to be. But I'm also a very firm believer that we cannot retreat from our posture in Asia.
Sino-African relations began in the mid-1950s, but recently have grown stronger. With the abundance of natural resources in Africa, China-African trade dramatically increased by over 681% from 2001 to 2007, and it is still increasing. Many Western nations are wondering if this relationship is mutually beneficial. Many claim China is exploiting Africa's natural resources forcefully.
The ties between North Korea and China have been very strong since 1950, when Chinese troops helped them in the Korean War. China is one of North Korea's only allies, but lately even this relationship has been strained. Korea has launched 3 nuclear attacks in the last 7 months, and China is becoming more impatient. Earlier this week, I sat down with Michaela Hinkle. So how dependent is Korea on China?
Very. China is their biggest trade partner, supplying 90% of their energy imports and 45% of their food imports.
And has China made any response to the missile testings?
China does have a contingency plan to send troops over. However, China will be very unwilling to carry this plan out for fear of North Korean refugees flooding into China.
The main topic of disagreement is over the islands in the East China Sea. China calls these islands the Diaoyu and believes they should have control because they have been fishing grounds for Chinese since ancient times. The Japanese believe the island, which they call Senkaku, are theirs because the treaty made after World War II did not include it as land claimed in the Treaty of San Francisco. On January 30th, China did lock weapons on a Japanese warship near the coast of the island. However, there is unlikely to be any struggle in the near future. We talked to students at the U of M and asked them if they thought China was successful. These were some of their responses.
Our country is still developing, but there is a lot of potential.
China is very focused on growing their economy and education.
Our GDP is still growing.
Number 3 world ranking army and leverage over North Korea and the U.S.
We think that China is a successful world leading power. Of their energy good oh
my god. North Korean.
Korean.
The ties between Korea and China. The ties between North Korea and China have been very strong since 19.
China has Oh my god.
Get it together, Terry. Okay.
China has the 3rd highest ranked military in the world, with a population of 1,344,000,000.
So how dependent is Korea on China?
Very, 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 very,
China.
very.
Hi, my name is Kieran Makela, and I'm here to talk about the Chinese military. Hi, my name is Kieran Makela, and I'm here to talk about the Chinese military.
Hello, my name is Michaela. Adios.